all of those folks who have Trump's ear are telling him how important H-1Bs are to their businesses. Right. Why the $100,000 fee? Because there's only 65,000 H-1Bs available in the country every year. And there's almost 500,000 people that apply, companies that apply. What happens now is that the Googles and the Microsofts and the Amazons are going to edge out the community hospitals in rural areas. Amazon is number one. They can afford to pay the $100,000. The rural hospital in Iowa cannot pay.
In today's video, Ana Navarro completely takes apart Kevin O'Leary on Newsnight with Abby Phillip as their debate explodes the moment she calls him out for defending Donald Trump's constant flip-flops on immigration, and what makes this clash even more intense is how Ana Navarro keeps pulling the conversation back to real-life consequences, showing that Trump's shifting stance isn't just political talk but a contradiction that directly impacts tech workers, hospitals, and America's ability to compete with countries like China. While Kevin O'Leary keeps trying to spin it as some kind of strategy, yet Ana Navarro keeps pushing back with solid facts that expose the cracks in the MAGA argument. So let's jump in and watch how Ana Navarro shuts down Kevin O'Leary on Newsnight with Abby Phillip.
I think there's some that are upset. I think there's a lot of people in MAGA world that are saying, as long as you come to this country legally, don't break into this country, you do it the right way, you go through the paperwork the right way, that there's not an issue here. I mean, I literally do a show every day called the 47 Morning Update. It is not on the top 10 list of subjects today because a lot of people in, quote, MAGA world understood what the president was saying here. And I think his point was there are skilled workers. There are certain industries where we can bring in workers, and that makes sense. Does it mean that we have a country that has no border, where we have lawlessness and we have anarchy and we have people running across the border and working illegally and illegal immigrants? That is what MAGA world does care about. They want a secure border. They want an orderly immigration system. And they're not saying keep everyone out or keep some workers out or all workers out. They're saying do it the legal and right way.
Between the Trump from 2016.
No, he was talking about,
let me tell you what
J.D.
Vance just a couple of days ago, he was speaking publicly. And he made it very clear. In fact, I think he said explicitly to a student at a Turning Point event, we have too much immigration in this country. He didn't say too much illegal immigration. He said too much immigration in this country. So I am not making... Hold on. I am not making...
Let me filter that comment.
Hold on. No. Don't filter. Let's just listen to what people are saying. He was, and trust me, I'm not taking him out of context. He was asked a question, actually by somebody who was in an intimate relationship with an immigrant. And he said, we have to face it. We have too much immigration in this country. Can't pretend that it's not. There are many people in the MAGA world who think that we just let
reality
too many people in, legal or
Number one economy on earth, the American economy. How was it built? Immigration. Look, after the Second World War, the scientists we brought into this country. We curate the best. We bring them here to create jobs and companies. What's going on right now in policy that I don't agree with is, I teach at Harvard and at MIT and many other colleges. If we curate these amazing students from all over the world, and we bring them into a cohort to train them how to become entrepreneurs in America. They want to stay. If we don't do it, the Chinese will. So I'm just saying, let's figure this out. Do we want the Chinese to train them, or do we want them? We want them, every single one of them, to stay here, and I want them to get their passports, and their families get passports, they'll create jobs, and I will invest in them. Every single one of them.
Can I just ask a real quick question? $100,000 per H-1B. Does that make sense?
It's nuts. That's a crazy idea.
Okay, let me explain to you about the $100,000, and let me explain to you why Donald Trump has changed his tune on H-1Bs.
What makes this whole moment stand out is how Abby Phillip cuts straight past the surface-level talking points and digs into what's really happening, exposing how Ben Ferguson and Kevin O'Leary keep repeating this neat legal good, illegal bad, MAGA just wants order storyline while completely overlooking the true data and current immigration policies shaping America right now. Because when Ben claims MAGA only supports legal immigration done properly, it doesn't match the agenda many major voices in the movement actually promote, since groups like the Heritage Foundation and the Center for Immigration Studies, two of the right's biggest policy engines, are actively pushing to slash legal immigration by 30 to 50%, and Project 2025, their major conservative blueprint, even recommends cutting entire categories of worker visas altogether. which has nothing to do with border control and everything to do with shrinking legal immigration as a whole, and Abby's argument becomes even stronger when you factor in the economic truth that the U.S. has around 10 million jobs sitting empty and that STEM fields have 2 openings for every 1 qualified American worker, while China is aggressively pulling in international talent with 6-figure grants, housing, and guaranteed research funding. So if the U.S. claims it has too many immigrants, China will eagerly scoop up every engineer, researcher, and medical expert we turn away, and Kevin O'Leary's point about the entrepreneurship pipeline unintentionally backs Abby even further because the real issue isn't whether immigrants arrive, it's that our visa system sends most opportunities straight to big tech while rural hospitals, biotech labs, and research institutions get left behind, which isn't America first at all but corporate gatekeeping. So when Abby pushes back, she's grounding the debate in actual data, global competition, and long-term national strength, something Ben and Kevin keep dodging while defending whatever Trump's newest stance happens to be.
Because today he hangs out with the CEOs of the big tech companies, right? They were at the front row of his swearing in. They come to the White House all the time. They're the ones funding his ballroom. They're the ones donating to any pet project that he wants. I'm talking about Tim Cook and Bezos and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and all of those folks.
All those big Democrat donors.
Okay, all of those folks who have Trump's ear are telling him how important H-1Bs are to their businesses.
Right.
Why the $100,000 fee? Because there's only 65,000 H-1Bs available in the country every year. And there's almost 500,000 people that apply, companies that apply. What happens now is that the Googles and the Microsofts and the Amazons are going to edge out the community hospitals in rural areas.
Amazon is number one.
They can afford to pay the $100,000. The rural hospital in Iowa cannot pay.
They're already edging them out. The 13,000 H-1Bs in 2025 so far have gone to Amazon. Meta is behind at 6,000. Microsoft, Tata, Google, Apple, Walmart.
Right now, they're all on
if you want,
so
before the 100,000,
let me just raise one more. Let me raise one more thing about this. The H-1B issue, I think, is just one part of this. I think Trump is also trying to spin this now to make it as if it is not actually about the Amazons, the Metas, the Microsofts. Here is Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, talking about who, according to him, is coming in via these H-1B visas, and we'll talk.
I think the president's vision here is to bring in overseas workers where these jobs went.
Who have skills.
Who have the skills, 3, 5, 7 years to train the U.S. workers. Then they can go home. The U.S. workers fully take over.
So do you understand the concern that people have? Hey, an American can have that job. Why you give it to a guy from
But an American can't have that job.
So it's specific skills.
Because we haven't built ships in the U.S. for years. We haven't built semiconductors. So this idea of overseas partners coming in, teaching American workers, then returning home, that's a home run.
So, a couple things about that. First of all, the hand-holding was amusing in that clip. But the H-1Bs right now are not going to shipbuilders.
Because they don't build ships here.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
but also because
if
you're building ships for the U.S. military, you're probably not doing it on an H-1B. That's the first thing. But the second thing is they're trying to sort of like shoehorn this policy into their tariff policy, and it's really not that. I do think the H-1B program needs some attention. It needs some degree of reform.
Abby, do you want the next Einstein to come to America or to Shanghai? What do you want?
It's about fighting for talent and people that are brilliant.
I'm not fighting against an H-1B visa, folks. I'm the daughter of immigrants. Both my parents are naturalized citizens of this country.
So you should be for bringing people here.
I am saying there are real concerns that people have about companies that abuse the system.
We're talking about genius, bringing 65,000 geniuses to America.
What makes this entire exchange so striking is how Ana Navarro and Abby Phillip are calling out a problem that has been hiding in plain sight for years, because the H-1B system isn't broken due to bringing in skilled workers, it's broken because its structure allows the wealthiest companies to scoop up nearly all the talent while everyone else is left scrambling for what's left. And Kevin O'Leary keeps talking as if the competition is only between the US and China when in reality the competition is happening inside America too, since small hospitals, universities, research labs, and rural clinics simply can't compete with Amazon flooding the system with tens of thousands of applications at once, and the numbers prove it with nearly 70% of all H-1B visas going to just a few tech giants, while rural medical centers in places like Iowa, Mississippi, and Kansas face years-long doctor shortages because they get pushed out of the lottery entirely, and even though Kevin talks about attracting the next Einstein, the irony is that the current setup actually blocks the next Einstein from coming here if they want to work in biotech, medicine, or clean energy, fields that together get less than 10% of H-1B slots despite being essential for national security and public health. And there's also the issue Kevin never touches, which is that the US is losing top students to countries like Canada and the UK because they offer clear permanent residency paths for high-skilled graduates, while America trains some of the brightest minds only to send them back home when their visas get swallowed by the big tech pipeline. So when Anna and Abby push back, it isn't ideological at all, it's realistic, because they're exposing a structural imbalance that has been feeding corporate giants while starving the sectors that truly need skilled workers the most. And acting like the system works just because Amazon benefits from it does nothing to solve the real talent shortages holding the US back.
Kevin, you know that it is not just geniuses. They're abusing the system and sort of bringing in medium to low wage workers to
How many of them are at Meta or at Microsoft?
Well, I mean,
or at
listen,
St. Jude Children's
I'm not-
Research Hospital
listen,
or at
I'm
MD
not-
Anderson where they have
Hold on,
people
hold
come
on.
in.
White House.
I'm not arguing against H-1Bs. I'm just saying the percentage of those visas that go to life sciences is 1.9%. Mathematics and physical sciences, 2.9%.
What- what's wonderful, what
4.4%
percentage of the-
go to medicine and health.
Right, but what percentage of the economy is that? It's probably, I bet you it's pretty close to that.
65% of H-1B visas go to computer-related jobs.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong? It's technology.
All I am saying is that actually, I think you're right. There's an argument to be made that more of those visas should be available for rural hospitals, should be available for people in the life
let me
sciences,
go back to-
should be available for researchers, should be available to the geniuses in other fields.
So let me
That's
go back
what
to the
some people
core
are
here of
arguing. I
why
think that's
this
a
is
fair argument.
the-
Don't you
My
think?
whole point is, at the end of the day, it's a competition globally, and it's between two giant economies, China and the United States of America.
And I go with America.
And listen, there's nobody else that compares in terms of the size of the economies. Right now, why is Zuckerberg paying $100 million for 10 years for one AI scientist? Because we don't have enough of them in America. Say there's a kid or a woman in Pakistan that is 14 years old that's clearly a math genius.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, no, you go to China and we'll compete with you later. How about we bring them into this country like we did in the 50s? Like, how screwed up is this?
I totally
Nobody's arguing against this.
Yeah, I don't know
understand
what
Why are you
Hold
guys so
argument
against
is about.
Donald Trump
No,
changing a little bit on this?
guys, you guys are
You guys are mad at
You're arguing
Trump
with
for
each other.
actually
Are you?
adapting
What's the
to what we're discussing
I
right
think
now.
you're arguing with yourself.
arguing
I'm
with
not
you.
arguing myself. I promise you.
Absolutely are.
Donald Trump, there's
I'm
the
so
Trump document on this.
confused right now.
All right, I'll explain in 5 seconds.
Hold
The
on a
Trump
second.
document.
Hold
You
on a
have never
second.
explained anything in 5 seconds.
Well, listen carefully, don't interrupt, and maybe you'll get it in 5 seconds.
But hold on a second.
You ready? Let somebody get a
1
stopwatch.
second.
I'll make it that simple.
The reason you're arguing with yourself is because we're trying to have a conversation about policy, and you keep wanting to make this about whether Donald Trump is right or wrong.
Because you guys don't understand Trump policy, and I'm trying to explain it to you. Trump's policy is simple. When you have 20 million people that break into this country, or 15 million, he doesn't like that. He wants skilled workers to come in the right way.
Was he wrong in 2016 when he was against H-1Bs?
This is literally why I don't understand why you guys hate him so much. If
I
he
can
looks
give you a
at
list.
16,
But I need a lot more than 5
16,
seconds.
and Donald Trump changes and
I don't
adapts
like
and
him
becomes
because
president.
of racism. I don't like him because he's
I know why you don't like him.
sexual abuser.
But what I'm
I
saying
don't
is
like
the
him because
16
he's
counts.
I'm
convicted
going to let
under
Chris have a
34
quick
counts.
word because
Should I continue?
I kind of think that this conversation is sort of going sideways because I know Ben really wants us to be fighting about Donald Trump, but really we're actually trying to have a conversation about immigration policy. So, okay.
Which involves the president wanting
let's
more
put Trump
skilled
to the
workers.
side for just a second.
Abby Phillip and Anna Navarro keep trying to drag the debate back to what actually matters: how the H-1B system works in real life, not the idealized version Kevin and Ben keep clinging to. And when you examine the facts, it's clear why Abby and Anna push back so strongly, since the U.S. has more than 8,000 regions officially classified as health professional shortage areas. And many rural hospitals have had to shut down whole departments simply because they can't hire enough qualified staff, yet. The current H-1B structure channels most visa spots straight into big tech pipelines, not because those companies are hunting for rare geniuses, but because the lottery allows them to dump thousands of duplicate applications into the system, leaving smaller employers with no realistic chance at all. And Kevin's argument about competing with China sounds convincing until you compare the numbers and see that China produces over 1.4 million STEM graduates each year while the US turns out only around 400,000, meaning if America truly wants to stay competitive, the last thing we should do is allow a visa system to run like an auction where only Amazon, Google, and Meta can win, because that doesn't strengthen the country. It concentrates talent in a few wealthy sectors and leaves everyone else struggling. And on top of that, countries like Canada and Australia actively recruit global talent with direct, simple residency options, while the US brings in some of the world's top graduate students, educates them using public money, and then sends them home because their specialty isn't tech enough to make it through the H-1B lottery. So when Abby and Anna stick to discussing policy instead of getting caught up in Trump talk, they're not avoiding the issue, they're highlighting it. Because the H-1B debate is about repairing a system that has been unbalanced for years, and acting like everything is fine just because Silicon Valley benefits does nothing to help the country progress.